Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacey and Phil Thompson.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacey.
And my name is Phil Thompson. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Hope everybody is doing well. Steve and I are with a company called JSL Solutions, and we bring you streaming video through StreamingChurch.tv.
And Church App Live apps through Church App Live, and websites and church management through myflock.com.
All right, so that's the stuff that we do. We also work with churches, not only with technical things, but we also provide advice to leadership teams and whether they want it or not.
Yes, or we're part of leadership teams at churches. So that's typically the arena we have influence in.
Yeah, well, and you know, again, it goes without saying we've been doing this for a long time. So we really have a heart to help churches, ministries, and that's why we do what we do. So we're glad that you're listening. Thanks for spending some time with us. We cover a variety of topics on this Church Solutions podcast, as I mentioned, from tech stuff to leadership stuff and those kind of things. And so today, what are we going to talk about?
So today we're talking about video shorts, or what you're calling video shorts.
Yeah, I made that up. I don't know if that's really a real term for it, but we're talking about video.
So what is a video short?
Well, my definition of a video short is you're going to have a little video that's maybe anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes long, and it's designed. There's several reasons for a video short or a short video.
Yeah, or it could be even a minute, I would think.
It could
be
short. Yeah, I mean, you could.
Because 5 is almost pushing it, right? Or not?
Yeah, well, it depends, again, on the purpose of it, which we're going to talk to in a moment. But the whole reason we're bringing this up is, you know, a few weeks ago we talked about podcasts for your church, how to do a church podcast. There's so many tools out there now that really, if you're involved in ministry, either as a volunteer or a pastor or executive pastor or you know, associate pastor, there's so many technical tools out there which are, for the most part, you know, pretty inexpensive or even free. You should take advantage of those things. And so video shorts are something you should really consider taking advantage of because there's several purposes to doing video.
Right. And I will get into this, but this is something that you already have the equipment for. If you have a cell phone and a computer, then you're pretty much equipped for this, right?
Exactly. For the most part, you are. And again, depending on the purpose. So really, you know, I know as somebody that's done pastoral work and actually still involved kind of on a part-time basis, you know, anytime I think of here's something new I could do, sometimes in my brain I think, this is going to take more work. I got to do this. And that can be true in some cases, but really, once you start doing certain things, the energy is at the beginning, but then you can kind of, you know, coast along with it. Like even our podcast, it took us a while to get our podcast up to speed and do things, but now it's a pretty
regular thing
for us, and it can be that way for you with podcast or video or whatever. So let's talk a little bit today about, first of all, let's talk about, you know, why should I even consider doing any kind of video? And I'm not just talking about streaming video. Yes, we're a streaming video company, but we're not really going to talk about streaming video. We'll mention it, but we're not really going to talk about it right now.
So I'm not seeing in the notes here, are you talking about how to get this video to, the audience is the congregation, right? This is church members.
I would say for the most part, your church members. So there's several reasons you can use video for your church, your ministry, really even for your business too, for that matter. But the first thing would be to consider promoting your services. So here's something that I used to do with the church I used to be with, your church. You're still there. They haven't kicked you out yet. But give them time; they will. I'm just kidding. So one of the things we used to do is our senior pastor. I would literally whip out my iPhone, and we would do a short little, almost a commercial that was really maybe a minute long, maybe a little longer than a minute, of the senior pastor promoting what was coming up.
Yeah, the series, right? Or the talk.
Series or something that was coming up, the message that he was going to bring Sunday. So we normally would do this Monday. But, you know, there's ways. And again, if you're a volunteer, maybe you could do this after a service somewhere, just block aside some time where you pull the pastor aside and say, let's promote what's happening next week. And you could literally whip out your phone and you could do a video on your phone and use that to promote what's happening.
Right. You can drop that into either an email or the newsletter that goes out, or
Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
You could put on your Facebook if your church has a Facebook page. You could create a YouTube channel, again, free. You could post it on YouTube and then take the link that YouTube gives you or the code, and you could drop it in a lot of places. You could put it different places on social media.
Right. So this is going to create some energy around, I better get to church next weekend because I saw that Jeff's going to be, your pastor's going to be talking about X or Y.
Yeah, about some subject. So hopefully, the preparation in this is very minimal with the exception of, okay, first of all, whoever's speaking that next Sunday, they need to know what they're going to talk about and maybe have some kind of a little hook on it saying, hey, have you ever thought about this, and how much you waste your time? Next week, we're going to talk about time wasters or something,
Yeah. Find out the top 3
most
worthless gifts for Christmas.
Yeah, something, where you could do a little tease. But again, and we're going to talk a little bit about, a little bit later in this podcast about some things to look for technically when you're going to do these things. Because there are some things to think about, lighting and audio, which we'll cover.
So the first purpose was promoting your service. What's another purpose?
You could promote your services. Again, it may not be Sunday. It might be a Wednesday night service you're doing, whatever. The other thing would be, too, and I know some people have done this, provide some weekly encouragement. So if you're a pastor or maybe a leader, a team leader, somebody that's, got a voice in your church, if you're a leader, you've got people following you, either the team you're leading or the ministry area, you could do something where you could provide some weekday encouragement. And you could do a little video. And again, there's different ways to do this, which we'll get into. But you could say, hey, it's Wednesday. We want to just give you here's the word for today, kind of a deal.
Or you could follow up on the previous week's message, right? So this past weekend I talked on depression, and now I want to.
Now I want to tell you how depressed I am about that service. But seriously, you could, and again, these are things you can do that honestly won't take a lot of time once you kind of get things in place. So you could do a video of weekday encouragement, and you could do this. And by the way, this could be for the whole congregation. And again, you're going to have to put it in your newsletter, and we can talk about how to do that. Or maybe you just have a specific team, of people you want to just address with a little video. So there's different ways you could do this.
Yeah, that would be. I could see where the pastor puts together a thing and says, "I really appreciate our children's workers and the job you do every weekend," and and send it to all the children's workers.
It's a form of connection, and a lot of churches have figured out now over many, many years that sending out a weekly newsletter is probably a good thing to do. So you could either incorporate the video in the newsletter or not even do a newsletter and just do some kind of a video. I mean, it's up to you guys what you want to do depending on the culture of your church and everything. So yeah, absolutely. So another purpose of a video could be also if you happen to have a blog. And I was blogging for a long time, and honestly, I have stopped blogging because I've just got too much on my plate. But many leaders, pastors have a blog. And again, you're usually typing something up and putting something in your blog. Mm-hmm. You could include a video. You could do both. You could have what you're going to talk about. You could just do it on video, and then you could have the notes under it or the text under it. And actually, for some, I would think this would be even less work than writing a blog article, right? I'm just going to turn the camera on and talk through this one. Right. And again, I know some people are thinking, well, what about cameras and all that? Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. So, but yeah, I mean, you could post you could stick your video in your blog. And again, it's a great way to connect with people. Face to face, kind of, even though you can't see them, they're going to see you on a recorded video. So something to consider. So, all right. So there was a couple other areas we talked about them. I guess already was the YouTube channel and YouTube you could use to host your blog or host your video, and then you could post it other places. But maybe you just want to. just have have a YouTube channel or Vimeo or whatever channel. And there's other things out there.
Because your members will get notice if they subscribe to your channel, then they're going to get a notice through whatever means, either email or that's how I get them through email, is show up and say, oh, such and such has added a new video to their channel.
Right. So if you don't have a blog, or maybe you just have a YouTube channel and then have subscribers to it, and you can just do it very quickly on YouTube. Yeah. And again, it's a way to connect with people. And the nice thing about YouTube is if you set things up right, and again, it's not just YouTube. You can use Vimeo, and there's other ones out there, Dailymotion or whatever. You can actually put some keywords in there and some, things that so people, total strangers could run across your video, and you could, if you've got something you think that would encourage, not just your church, but other people outside your church walls. Right. You beware, you might get some comments that you might not. But you can always block those. You can always change those comments, but YouTube is a great way. If you do it right and put the right keywords in, you've got a subject that interests people. Total strangers can come across your YouTube channel if they're searching for something and hear what you have to say.
Right. So the last purpose that you've got listed here is special activities. Yeah,
and again, this is something you could use. Doesn't have to be the pastor doing this. It could be anybody that's involved in your church, and you've got a special event going on. It could be a special Sunday event. It could be something during the week. It could be, all sorts of crazy things churches do, and I say that in a positive way. Things to stir up things, attract people, and so you again use a short little video to promote that. And then I know at your church, you guys kind of run, like for announcements, you have many times video announcements,
right?
And there's people out there that do those, that actually will do them for you. But we're talking today about really you doing that yourself, or somebody from your church doing. And by the way, when we talk to you about these things, we're trying to keep in mind that you have a budget. And we're trying to give you some creative ways where you don't have to spend a lot of money to do some of the stuff that we talk about.
Yeah, and the video announcements, that's a really good, because you can kill several birds with one stone. I know that we'll run, one of the things is we'll run the announcements during the service rather than having someone come up and say, you've had 90 seconds to go through the announcements. This way you can get this thing tuned to 90 seconds and not only use it in the service, but send it out in an email so everybody stick it on your website. Yeah, you've got what's going on every week in a very concise tool.
You don't waste a lot of time. Video, and again, every church is different. We realize that we have a lot of different churches, but we have always found, and Steve, you watch a lot of people streaming on Sundays that stream with us or do free trials, and I have too. And one of the things that even as a visitor going to churches personally, walking in the door, one of the things that always kind of irks me is the announcement time. And everybody has to have it. And usually it's somebody reading stuff off the bulletin, and then maybe other people adding things. Announcements are just time killers. They're time wasters. I mean, if somebody could just put a little bit of extra thought into how to announce something, what to announce, what not to announce, because you don't have to announce every single thing.
Right.
And as you touched on, a video announcement that you could run during your services. Some of this stuff you don't have to run during your services, but something like this could really help. It will take you a little bit more time to prepare it.
Right.
Because on some of these other things we just mentioned, they may not need as much care.
Right.
But with the video announcement, you probably want to spruce it up a little bit. Make sure the lighting's
polish
good.
it a little bit and make sure the timing's right.
Right.
And,
Whereas
some of the other purposes are just the pastor dropping in on people. It can be
you don't have to have an exact time. But again, I think it is a good point. Video announcements are something you should consider. It will help you. If you're a pastor right now, let me just address this to you. Do you want more time to speak? Or do you want your time to be given up by somebody rambling on about announcements? Or maybe you're the one doing the announcements. But let's be honest here. I mean, you feel like you probably have something important to say in your message, in your sermon. So why not cut back on needless chatter,
right?
And give you more time to say what you want to say. And so that's the whole idea about, kind of streamlining your announcements. that's a whole nother subject. But if you did video announcements, or at least once in a while, that you might find that people really like it and changes things up and hopefully give you more time to talk.
Yeah. And also another benefit of it is you could give the stage for someone to do the announcements to someone that's not comfortable getting in front of a bunch of people.
That's true.
So
if it's on video?
Yeah. You just record it on a camera, and we have some of the youth doing the announcements now, and so they may be stuttering and stammering and panicked in front of everybody, but in front of the camera, they're
So video shorts is what we're talking about today. Really have a and again, as you said at the beginning, Steve, there's some of this stuff you've already got the tools, some of it, and you could do it really very easily without spending a lot of money.
Right. So how do you do it? Were you ready to transition into how do you make this happen?
So there's different methods to do video shorts. One of them we touched on earlier, and that was use your smartphone or have somebody with your smartphone and now the newer phones have some great cameras, and my poor little iPhone 4S pales in comparison to my wife's. What's she got, a Samsung?
I don't know. It's your wife, right?
Well, it's my wife, but you have the same phone, I think.
Oh, I do?
One of your kids does. It's a bigger phone, and Samsung 4.
Galaxy S4.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. So, but there's some really good cameras and video cameras on phones today that really do a great job. So the first method you could use is have somebody use their phone or use a good phone, and they can just hold it. They don't have to be on a tripod. Now we're talking like something around 2 minutes,
right?
If they're going to have to stand there for 5 minutes or longer, it's not really.
Yeah, and you don't want to. I mean, people have a short attention span.
Right.
You don't want a 10-minute video short.
Probably not. Unless there's really a purpose to it, like if you're really going to kind of go over a little teaching or something, and then if that's the case, we'll direct you another direction here.
Right.
But with a smartphone, somebody can hold it, and today you don't have to have the thing perfectly still. I mean, with MTV and a lot of these shows out there, you will see, the screen kind of moves a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's not too distracting. Plus, the bottom line is now, even with YouTube, if you upload it on YouTube, they have some kind of software that will help minimize
some image stabilization.
Yeah, exactly. Stabilization. So one way you could do this is with a smartphone of some type. Okay. Another way would be if you're going to use some kind of more of a personal feel and you want to share for a few minutes to your congregation or to your staff or to members, would be use the webcam on your computer. So you could use the webcam, and there are a couple things. Probably I'll just jump ahead here a little bit and say that if you're going to do something where you're sitting there for a few minutes, you really want to look at some things to make sure that it's watchable, that it looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
So I'll jump down and say you need to check your lighting.
Oh, okay.
And you can do that very easily. Just run it for a moment or two and look at
and then
the
go
video.
back and play it back.
And look at your lighting. And usually with webcams, there's usually something you can see anyhow on your screen where you can see your face and see what the camera is actually seeing so that you can position the camera correctly. But lighting definitely is something. And you know what? You don't need professional lighting for something what we're talking about here. I mean, I have manipulated things in my office. We used to do a lot of video shorts on our newsletter. It was usually me. Sometimes it was you and me. Haven't done them for a while. We're probably going to do them again, where we would talk about something, and I would talk for usually about just 2 minutes. And I literally just used my webcam. Now, I had one that you could plug in to my computer. You could use one from a laptop. I like the ones you can plug in and move around.
Oh, because you can point them and hang them on different things.
Get a different angle.
Right.
A lot of these people I see, even on Skype, even news interviews, a lot of the news channels are using Skype for interviews, but they look like if they just took 2 minutes to adjust the camera and adjust the lighting, the person that's being interviewed on their end, it would look a lot better. Sometimes you're looking at the person and you're seeing their Adam's apple, or you're seeing just the top of their head, or, so you could, within just a couple minutes, you could, really just a little bit of energy, you could improve your video by checking the lighting And if you have to manipulate the lighting, figure out a way to do it. I mean, I have a lamp in my office that I've literally turned around and moved so that the lighting didn't make me look totally washed out.
Right.
And you could see me, and it wasn't, I mean, I'm kind of hard on the eyes anyhow, but I don't want to make it worse for people. So I try to adjust the lighting. So really I could minimize that and do that and make it look okay. And then the other point too, since we're on this whole thing here about using different methods, is your audio. Whatever you're going to do, and that includes just using your iPhone or your smartphone, you want to make sure the audio is clear enough for people. Yeah. If the audio is too echoey, or so, you may have to change the room. If you're in a room that is just nothing but hardwood floors or linoleum and no curtains, you might get too much echo, and it's a little distracting, especially if it's longer than 2 minutes. So check your audio out real. And again, if you're using your laptop, usually there's a way you can manipulate some kind of a microphone, or if your webcam has a mic, you can adjust that. There's a way you can do that on settings so that your audio, because really, and we've talked about this before when it comes to video, even streaming video, your streaming video can look great. Your lights can look good. But if your audio is not good, nobody's going to watch it.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter.
Challenging.
You can get away with lesser quality audio, but if your audio's lesser quality video, you can get away with lesser quality video if your audio is very good.
Right.
So keep that in mind. So where are we at? So you could use webcams. And by the way, notice I say cams too. There's ways you could do, if you're really serious about this, and it's not going to be that much money, you could actually, if you're going to sit down and sit in front of your computer and do a message for somebody, maybe just a few minutes long, you could actually, there's software out there today you can use. So you could hook up 2 cams that plug in through USB. So you could do that using software. One of those software is called ManyCam. I think it's called Many, M-A-N-Y Cam.
M-I-N-I?
Not many, but many.
Oh, okay.
ManyCam. Just Google it. I have not used it yet. I think there's a free version. I think there's a paid version for $39 or $40.
Yeah, so that'll spice up even a short video if you have. Speaking from one angle for 15 seconds and then another angle. Yeah,
you can turn. I mean, if you just look today, just watch the news. I mean, years ago, growing up, somebody was in front of a camera. That was it. Now, you'll get somebody doing the news, and they'll turn to their left and get to the next camera. Just changes things up a little bit.
It's amazing. Since I'm the video switcher at our service,
right.
I pay attention to TV when I'm watching TV, and it's amazing. How many? Typically, a shot is not held for more than 1 second.
Yeah, especially with concerts and stuff.
Yeah, or just concerts, or I think I was watching football or something. It was just I was just counting. Dude, this one 1,000, 1, 2, it's like whoa, and it was just. It's amazing.
Multiple cameras.
You don't really realize how much switching is going on.
Yeah, and so again,
and it adds a lot.
It does add a lot. And so again, from our perspective, trying to help you as a leader or somebody involved in your church, you don't have to spend a lot of money to bring some of that into your little video short. I mean, if you were able to, a lot of our customers are streaming with us. They use streaming video. Some of them use Wirecast software. So you could do that all from Wirecast.
Right.
You could just you could put 2 cams in, or maybe 3 if you got that, and you could switch back and forth even while you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, you could. We've done this. We've gone in and taken advantage of the camera and the lighting and all that sort of thing that happens on Sunday morning for just video shorts.
Yeah. And so, you can switch things around. So there's stuff out there today that won't break the bank that you can use to enhance any little video thing you're doing, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. So webcams are another method you could use. And then touching on what you just mentioned, Steve, if your church happens to have some pretty expensive video equipment and you video your services, maybe you stream live, or maybe you don't stream, but you still video them. You could, again, just do something where you walk in, and you probably got to have somebody else, that's running the control, the switcher. But you could go in and do a video short using your your expensive
Yeah,
lighting
your
and your
Sunday morning experience, and just
use it. And then you can again upload it to YouTube. You can use a media vault. I mean, we provide a media vault with our business. So you can record all that and keep it somewhere. Other people can look at it later, or if it's a timely event, something that's time sensitive, you have it up for a while and then take it down. So there's lots of different ways to do this. But again, what we're getting at is using some of these tools out there to enhance what you're doing. So, all right. So again,
so we covered
that.
I don't know. We covered the smartphone, webcam, or your more expensive equipment.
Right.
Possibly even using your streaming mixer and platform to do that.
Sure.
So those are the different ways.
Yeah.
So last point we're gonna make here was about how to look good.
How to look good. So again, lighting, as we just mentioned. So I won't run that down the ground. Audio is very important. So figure out a way to do that. Multiple cams we just mentioned. And then the other thing too is if you're really going to do this on a weekly basis, depending again on the purpose of it, you might include other people beside you in the video.
Right.
Either if you want to get creative and do something like you mentioned, Steve, about, okay, let's kind of recap last weekend's message. It's Wednesday, time to recap last weekend's message. Was it something that you liked? Maybe you have somebody else kind of ask some questions. If you got somebody on staff or you got somebody who wants to volunteer, kind of interview the pastor or whatever is, maybe get a little deeper, so to speak, for a few minutes. I'm not thinking a long deal here, but maybe ask one or two questions about the sermon. So give that pastor a couple minutes, if it's possible, to expound upon what he talked about Sunday at one particular point. Again, just as a means to encourage. The other thing that some people have done with our company using StreamingChurch.tv is they've actually streamed on our platform and then used chat and asked people, okay, let's get some questions here on what I'm talking about, and people can type in the chat on our platform, and then that person can look at the platform while he's streaming live
and
answer the questions in real time, basically. And then, they can still record it and capture it. So they're doing it live at the same time, recording it and putting it out there in the media vault or somewhere else where people can see that. So there's lots of creative things you can do. And honestly, it's like anything else, we're just about out of time. It's like anything else you try to do. It takes some energy to get it going.
Right.
Maybe find the right microphone or find the right cam, and then set things up and
then you're rolling. Yeah.
And you're rolling.
Yeah. Another thing that just came to mind here, an opportunity for this is to give some exposure for some people behind the scenes. So you can have, I'm Joe, the main AV tech guy, give this week's church announcements or whatever, and say, hey, I'm Joe, I'm here every Sunday. Get some exposure for those that are volunteering that people may or may not know exist.
Yeah, and those little things go a long way. Encouragement to your people that work behind the scenes. Do you remember, Steve, one time I spoke at your church? It was my church, too, at the time. And I did something crazy. I think we called it the Phil cam. I put something on my head, and I don't remember how we did it, if we used Skype or what we were doing during the service. It was live, and we were streaming it live. Yes. And we switched over to
from the camera around on your head. Yeah. Yes, that was the technical stress weekend, I think.
Yeah,
so Phil's going to switch to this camera and go back into the children's area, right?
I walked around different places in the church.
Right, while broadcasting from your head.
While broadcasting from my head. And so I literally walked out of the auditorium. People could see it on the screens, and then people at home or wherever could watch it live on the streaming. And I walked around and maybe interviewed a couple people or something, and did that. So that was pretty crazy. And it wasn't the greatest production in the world, but it was something different. It was
unique.
And I think we might have done another version of it where we actually just went into the I used to call it the curtain, the behind the curtain room. We used to, you still do on your stage. You have a room where all the technical stuff is, and you walk behind the curtain and you'd see all those guys. I think we did another version of that or something that worked a little better because I didn't walk all over the place. But anyhow, so there's creative things you can do with video, and it just takes a little bit of time to sit down and think about it. So So if you have questions about that as we're out of time, how can people get a hold of us?
So support at StreamingChurch.tv.
All right. That's the best way to get a hold of us, or you can go to our website, StreamingChurch.tv, and chat with us.
Yes, exactly. We man that
Yeah.
during business hours U.S. time.
Yeah.
So,
Or if we're out to lunch, then we don't man it. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities to get a hold of us. And if we can help you with this or any other question, we certainly want to do that. We are out of time, Steve. So that means we have to say bye-bye.
all right.
So goodbye.
Till next week.
Yeah, and check us out on iTunes, Church Solutions Podcast. Subscribe to us, give us a review, or check us out at newmediaministries.tv. Or YouTube channel is still Phil Thompson Live is the YouTube channel. We're talking about changing that name, but not sure how to do it without screwing everything up. So there's lots of ways to find us. So give us some feedback. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will catch you next time for another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.